The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophie.
Hey, good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I am your host, Steve-O. We have a great show for you today. In fact, this show is so good, and there's so many people who listen to this show. We actually do 2 shows a month. So we have today's show, and in 2 weeks from today, we will have another one. We're talking money management, and we have got one of the top money management companies, not just in Florida, but the entire United States, Provise Money Management. And we're blessed to have the founder, Ray Ferrara, with us. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve, and happy Monday as always.
Same.
A great way to start the week.
Yes, exactly. And Ray, God, you are like becoming a rock star. I mean, people love your show. And first of all, I think people really feel your honesty, and you're so educated. And there's a lot of companies out there who people feel like they've been misguided, but we just get nothing but positive people who listen to your show every month.
Well, Steve, it's kind of you to mention that, and it's equally kind that all those folks are indicating that they enjoy hearing the show, et cetera. It's a rock star. If I am, well, it's kind of like that commercial. You got to quit calling yourselves rock stars. But with experience and age comes a little wisdom, and hopefully we're able to impart that to the listeners of Ask the Expert. So it's delightful to be here with you.
Ray, I know I've brought this up before, and I always forget what commercial it was, but I think it was American Express when people would say, they'd start to talk about the money, and everybody would stop what they're doing to listen. Was that American Express?
No, that goes back into the 70s or the 80s, and that was when E.F. Hutton speaks.
E.F. Hutton, that's right.
People listen. And E.F. Hutton hadn't been around for a long time, but I'm glad I'm still here.
But you remind me of that commercial, though.
Well, thank you. That's very flattering.
Well, since we're getting so many new listeners because we've expanded the show to Florida and not just the Tampa area you're in, tell people about Provise.
Well, Steve, Provise is a financial planning firm, first and foremost. We have offices located in Clearwater, Florida, and in Tampa. Although we deal with people in 30 states scattered around the country, we're managing somewhere around $1.8 billion on behalf of 1,200 clients. I stress the financial planning because everything that we do, we believe are subsets of the plan itself. For instance, you mentioned investment management, money management. We don't think ourselves as money managers first. We think of ourselves as financial planners first. And once we understand people's goals, their motivations, their values around money, then we are able to more intelligently invest the money on their behalf. And everybody's portfolio is managed on an individual basis. It's not a cookie cutter. They're not models for the most part, except for some smaller accounts that we have. So everything is a subset of the plan, whether it's estate planning, retirement planning, education planning, budgeting, et cetera. All of those are subsets of the financial plan. And as you know, and listeners know, we offer a 1-hour free consultation in our Clearwater or Tampa office, or if it's more convenient, regardless of where somebody is located, they can always take advantage of that by Zoom. And all they have to do is go to 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022, and just ask for that complimentary 1-hour consultation, and we'll be happy to visit.
Ray, I got to tell you, my girlfriend was freaking out last week. She owns a lot of stock and very unhappy, very nervous. Last week was actually one of the worst result-wise. Does this mean the end of the bull market and the beginning of the bear?
Well, Steve, I guess the best way for me to answer that is I don't believe so. First of all, we have a great deal of uncertainty going on in the world. We have uncertainty going on here in the United States with a presidential election coming up in about 7 weeks, I guess maybe 8 weeks. The market is still up 13% even after last week for the year. It's still up. And we're going to continue to see a lot of volatility between now and election day, and until some of that uncertainty is eliminated. The other thing to think about is yeah, it was a pretty bad week, and you could look about just about anywhere to experience a bad week. For the NASDAQ, it was the worst since February of 2022. For the S&P 500, it was the worst in 18 months, taking back to the spring of 2023. And we saw the S&P 500 down a little over 4%, the NASDAQ down a little over 7%. A lot of that led by the big names that have done so well this year. And although those big names took a pretty sizable hit, it simply, in our mind, was an adjustment to prices that were probably too high. And you have to have these kinds of pullbacks, and this gives investors who didn't get a chance before to invest into some really quality companies, if they're willing to take a leap of faith that things will be better over the next 3-5 years. And remember, we're not traders, we're investors. Think Warren Buffett, not the wolf of Wall Street, if you will, where everything gets turned over as quickly as you can buy it and then turn around and sell it. That's not the kind of opportunity that we present to our clients. So, do I think it's the end of the bull and the beginning of the bear? Highly unlikely, particularly in light of the fact that the Federal Reserve will look to reduce rates for the first time since March of 22. Coming up, actually, I take it back, the first time that they will have reduced rates, going all the way back to March of 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic.
We just got a text from Craig in Miami. I really enjoy your show. I enjoy your knowledge. Can you tell me what is going on with tech stocks? I have Microsoft and Apple, and I'm so surprised that they continue to go down. Any remarks?
Well, again, both Apple and Microsoft, even though they've both declined recently, are still ahead for the year. In fact, Apple, I believe it's today, is going to make its announcement on the iPhone 16 with AI capabilities. I, for one, will be buying that phone, getting rid of my 14. I skipped the 15. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who will be anxious to get that phone, and which I think will go a long way towards boosting Apple's stock. That's a personal opinion. It is not a recommendation. Don't go running out to buy Apple stock as a result of that. That's my just my own observation as to what I think will happen. And again, I remind people over and over, Steve, that the stock market is like a man walking up a flight of stairs with a yo-yo. And whether you're thinking of the markets as a whole, or if you're thinking about an individual stock like Apple or Microsoft, as long as they're continuing to grow their earnings, the man's going to walk up the stairs. But in the meantime, the yo-yo is going to go up and down. And right now, the decline that has occurred in those two stocks is the yo-yo going down. But two fine companies that should do very well again going forward, but on a long-term basis. Let's not worry about what happens in the short run.
Let's go to Sue in Fort Lauderdale. Looks like the Fed is finally set to cut interest rates for the first time since the pandemic. What lies ahead?
That was a freezing question. Ray seems to have froze up on us. So give me a minute to try to get Ray back.
I see him.
I see him, but he's frozen. Ray,
No,
he froze.
Ray, can you hear us? Let's see if we can get Ray back.
So while we're working on getting Ray back, why don't you tell the listeners how, let me see, Ray?
Looks like he's coming back. Hey, this, once in a while, things like this happen. We can hear you. We can't see
back.
You. There he is. Can you hear us okay now?
Ray?
Can you hear us, Ray?
Rebel, I'm back.
Yes, I see you.
Can you hear me, Ray?
All right.
No, doesn't sound like he can hear me.
Sorry about that. I don't have any.
Rebel, can you hear me?
Yeah, Steve, I can hear you. Ray, your internet is weak. We're hearing every other word.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yeah, he can hear you, but his internet is freezing up. It's really weak right now.
Okay. See, these things, we do a live show and things go wrong. I mean, I see it on some of the major networks where they freeze up. Things like this just happen. We enjoy doing a live show rather than a tape show. And this way we can get you the latest information. Looks like Ray has frozen up again. Maybe we can get him to come back on. Let me give you Ray's phone number. It's 727-441-9022. It's Provise, PROVISE.com. Ray is with us twice a month. And though he's out of Tampa, his show covers all of Florida. Ray has been with us for 3 years now. And like I was telling him, we get so many compliments about Ray's show. People love the fact that his honesty, his education. Ray's actually the founder of ProVice. So we are working on getting him back on. We will have a second show right after Ray. It's going to be our personal injury show. We'll be talking about auto accident injuries as well as slip and fall. And looks like he's trying to come back in again. Let's see if we can get him. I think he's back. Ray, can you hear us? Rebel, I've never seen this happen before.
It's just a bad connection on Ray's part. He might have weather or something, or you never know. The powers that be may not want people to know these wonderful things.
That is true. Every so often I see his head move and then he freezes up again. Hey, Ray. I don't know if we're going to be able to get Ray on today. Ray will be back again with us in 2 weeks. And I think this is the first time we've ever had this many times where the show has actually been frozen. Listen, if I'm on, you know it's a good sign. Yeah, now we can hear you. Ray, can you hear us?
I don't have any idea what happened.
Seems like you keep freezing up. Let me see if I can get this question in from Sue. Looks like the Fed is finally set to cut interest rates for the first time since the pandemic. What lies ahead, Ray?
Well, Sue, you're right. This will be the first time that they've cut interest rates since March of 2020, as I mentioned earlier. It's a big first step. Whether they cut 25 basis points or 50 basis points at this upcoming meeting, the important part is that they're moving in the direction of cutting the rates in the first place. And I suspect that what we will see is a continuation of rate cuts throughout the rest of this year, and maybe even leading into I don't know, Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Am I back with am I back with you, Steve?
Yes. Good. Can you hear us?
There's a big question as to whether they'll cut 25 or 50 basis points. If the numbers are soft on inflation on Wednesday this week, then I suspect that they will only cut 25 basis points. If the numbers are a little higher, then I think that they'll really think in terms of. I'm saying that in reverse. If the numbers are high on inflation, I think they'll only cut 25 basis points. If they're soft on inflation, I think there's a possibility that they may cut the 50 basis points to start with. You know, a lot of people have said, you know, when you're sick, you don't want just a little penicillin to get better. You want that big shot of penicillin to initially to get better. And so a lot of folks are saying, let's take the big shot. Let's take a 50 basis point cut first. I'm afraid that would send some signals to the market that things are much weaker than most people believe they are today. You know, my thinking is 25 basis points this first time around, and then a series of cuts where maybe one in the future will be 50 basis points. I think they'll err on the side of caution, not on the side of panic.
Well, Ray, I've got to bring this up. Tomorrow night is the big debate, and taxes will be absolutely, or hopefully, at the top of the questions. Where does each candidate stand, and what will be the outcome of each?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things that we'll hear from that'll be around immigration, abortion, taxes, and let me limit my comments to the tax side of things. Initially, Vice President Harris indicated that she was going to adopt Biden's plan on capital gains, which would have caused capital gains taxes to gone up to ordinary income tax rates. And there would have been a wealth tax, that is a tax on capital gains, even though property may not have been sold. Conversely, former President Trump has indicated that he would lower individual taxes by sustaining his Tax Act of 2017, which expires at the end of 2025, and has talked about on the corporate side reducing taxes from 21% down to 15%. So very divergent plans on which way each of them would go on capital gains. The Trump Act, as I mentioned, will end in 2025, at the end of 2025. So there's going to be some change that has to occur in 2026, by 2026. And a lot of that will depend on which parties control which house, including the White House, not just the Senate and the House of Representatives. The interesting part on the tax cut from 2017, as a percentage of tax cut, the low and middle income got a greater percentage savings than did the very wealthy. But the wealthy in dollar amounts got significantly more than the middle class and those with lower incomes. Hence, both candidates have embraced child tax credits to give people a break for having children. Excuse me. They've both embraced the idea of no taxes on tips. So, Steve, you and I in the future, I'm only going to get paid in tips, and you're going to get paid in tips, because if they make it all tax free, everybody's going to get tipped. So it is the most insane idea I've heard. Why should one group of people who make income that not pay taxes, where equally paid people like healthcare providers who might be paid $15, $16 an hour, they have to pay taxes on their income. And then the tax that nobody is really spending any time on is the one around tariffs. Trump says he will raise the tariffs. Harris says she won't, but she neglects to mention that the Biden administration has maintained the tariff on Chinese goods that was put in under Trump. So they both believe in tariffs, and tariffs are inflationary. There's just no question. It's an additional cost, and that, if strategically used, makes sense, but on a broad basis, probably is not as effective as one would like.
Ray, we've only got a minute left. I've told everybody you'll be back in 2 weeks. Tell people how they can reach you.
The best way for folks to reach us is to give us a call at 727-441-9022. Go to our website, provise.com, provise.com. Learn more about us. Take advantage of our 1-hour consultation, which is complimentary, for you to get to know us and ask us any questions that you might have. Again, the number is 727-441-9022. And I do apologize for all the technical issues right in the middle of the show.
Hey, it happens. It happens to all of us. Ray, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Right. Look forward to it, Steve. In the meantime, be safe and be well.
You too, Ray. Love you, bro.
Take care. Bye.
That's Ray Ferrara, Provise Management. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we've got I love doing this next show. It's sorry, it's about personal injury, but listen, we've got one of the greatest law firms that handles personal injury in the state of Florida. We'll be right back.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. Thank you for that short commercial. Our next show, we're going to be talking about personal injury. And listen, if you've ever been in an auto accident or been involved in a slip and fall, you've got to have somebody representing you. And we have one of the finest personal injury law firms in the state of Florida, Zervos and Colta. Let's bring on one of the managing partners, Lauren Colta. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Good. We missed you last time.
I know. I'm sorry I was out. I was away.
Yeah. Something not so joyful, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, first of all, between you and Angela, you have got so much experience in personal injury law. Tell people about your firm and your background.
Well, speaking personally, I started in New York, so I'm licensed in New York, and I started as a prosecuting attorney with Kings County District Attorney's Office in Brooklyn. I worked there 3 years, fulfilled my commitments, did a lot of felony trials, worked the grand jury room, presented cases for indictment, put people away, investigated claims, and then in 1994 came down to Florida, took the bar here, and ever since then I've been doing personal injury plaintiff's work. So 29 years, almost 30 years, this is all I've been doing, and I love it.
How do you look so young?
Only my dermatologist knows.
Oh, okay. You know what, Lauren, I shared this with you. You got the greatest compliment. We had a very, I'm not going to mention any names, not important, a very large personal injury firm contacted us who actually listens to your show, your and Angela's show, and complimented your show.
Oh, wow.
And the information you provide. So that was pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
And it was also one of the largest firms in the state of Florida. But you know what? What we have tried to teach people on the show, it's not a matter of how big or how small you are. Because I think between you and Angela, you two are so powerful when it comes to personal injury.
Thank you. We try. We are very dedicated to our clients. We're very passionate about our cases. Uh, and we give personal attention to each and every client, whether it's a $10,000 case, whether it's $1 million case. The clients get the same level of respect, they get the same level of attention, they get the same level of representation, because no one client is more important than the other.
Well, I hope you won't take this the wrong way, but I call you and Angela my bulldogs.
No, listen, we've been called a lot worse.
Very good. So let's get started. What kind of damages can a person present at trial?
Okay, so in your typical negligence case, your typical motor vehicle case, or even a slip and fall case, anything where you're alleging that somebody was careless and that carelessness caused you injury or damages, you have 6 components of injury. You have past medical expenses, you have past pain and suffering, you have past lost wages. You have future medical expenses, future lost wages, and future pain and suffering. Future medical expenses, the caveat there is that a doctor has to be able to testify that you need future medical care within a reasonable degree of medical certainty based on his treatment of you and his experience or her experience as your treating physician. Pain and suffering damages, you're only allowed if you've been diagnosed with what's called a permanent injury or a permanent impairment. If you don't have a permanent injury or permanent, you're not allowed to present damages for pain and suffering, which is one of the glitches in the law when you have personal injury protection benefits that are paid. If there's no personal injury protection benefits, and we've covered this before, Steve, it's a no-fault state. So if you're in a motor vehicle accident and there's no-fault benefits paid, there's a threshold for pain and suffering. If it's a slip and fall, there's no threshold. Or if you've been diagnosed with a permanent injury, there's no threshold. You've met it, meaning you met it. And you can present pain and suffering damages. In cases where you can prove reckless behavior, like a driving while intoxicated and riding on the wrong side of the road, causing you injury, damage, death, or intentional behavior, then you could move the court for permission to proceed with a complaint that alleges punitive damages. And those are exactly what they sound like. They're meant to punish the defendant for their reckless or intentional behavior. So those are the elements of damages that you could present at trial in a case.
Lauren, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm not trying to be political at all, but okay. We have gotten a lot of questions like this. I was just in the court in Palm Beach, Florida, and I could not believe all the people who are driving around without insurance.
Oh,
and the reason why I said I don't want to make it political, there's a lot of people out there who've come to our country who do not have a driver's license, yet alone insurance.
Right.
What if you're hit by someone who doesn't have insurance? What are your options?
It's scary, Steve. And it
worse than ever, right?
Oh, beyond worse than ever. The illegal immigrants that are driving, it is beyond record-breaking numbers. The economy is a big factor in that. People sometimes are choosing between feeding their family with the prices of food today and whether or not to have insurance on my car. That's a pretty big decision, right?
Yes.
Your family comes first and foremost. There's a lot of economic factors that go into why people aren't driving with insurance in today's economy. That being said, and again, without engaging in politics, this is why we tell everyone within earshot, anyone who will listen, even with half an ear, get uninsured motorist coverage.
Yes. Yes.
Legally, can you sue the person who hit you or the owner of the vehicle that struck you, even if they don't have insurance? Absolutely. But the problem is there's no guaranteed sum of money to go after. If you have an
Right.
insurance policy, you know that there's access to money. If there's no insurance policy, then what you're dealing with, Steve, is a judgment, a piece of paper. And
Yes.
if you can't afford insurance, chances are they're not going to have any assets that they're worried about you attaching to. So uninsured motorist, it steps in the shoes of the person that hit you or the owner of the vehicle that struck you. And it's on your own policy. You can protect yourself. Actually, if you have bodily injury coverage, it's such an important coverage, and agents don't like to sell it because they don't want you to use it because it costs the insurance companies money. But it's such an important coverage that the legislature came out many, many, many moons ago with a statute that says that if you have bodily injury coverage, and that's coverage that covers you, if I'm at fault for an accident with you, you can then go after my insurance under the bodily injury coverage for compensation for your injuries. If you have that on your policy, the insurance companies must have you sign a knowing waiver, a knowing rejection of uninsured motorist coverage, because they know how important it is to have it. And if you don't sign that waiver, if they can't produce that signed, it's called a rejection selection form, then they have to give you or afford you uninsured motorist coverage in the same amount that you have bodily injury coverage.
Mm.
So it's not that big of an increase on your policy. And I urge everybody who's listening to the show to get uninsured motorist coverage. Tell your family to get uninsured motorist coverage. Tell your friends to get uninsured motorist coverage. It's one of the most important coverages out there to protect yourself against careless drivers on the road.
Well, it's really strange. I was listening to a talk show this morning, and there was a part of the country where the whole town was 56,000. They just got 20,000 illegals. And what they said is what's causing a lot of accidents is they don't even know English. So how could they read the signs and understand how they should drive and our laws? And that was causing a lot of accidents. So what you're saying is so important.
I can't say it loud enough or enough times, especially in the society we live in today, in the circumstances we're living under today. It's more important than ever, truly.
I had a couple people who had questions. What if you're unhappy with your attorney? Can you fire an attorney who supposedly have already done some work already, but you're not satisfied, and hire another attorney?
I could answer that in one word. Absolutely.
That's 2 words. That's 2 words, Lauren. I'm kidding you.
Absolutely. Your contract of representation spells out that you have 3 business days to terminate the representation with your lawyer or fire your attorney without incurring any cost or fees. If say you've been going on months, and we get these people a lot, Steve. We get people who go to other firms, larger firms, who sign on because of the commercials or the advertising, or a friend of a friend told them, and they're not happy because they've never met with their attorney. They're going 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. They can't even get a phone conference with their attorney.
Right.
They're held back by what I refer to as a gatekeeper, a case manager, or a legal assistant. And as a client, you have an absolute right, without hesitation, to speak with the attorney you hired. Number one, to know the attorney you hired, right? Because with a lot of big
Yes.
firms, you don't know who's assigned to your case, especially if you haven't met them or spoke to them yet. Number two, you always have a right, and that's spelled out in the statement of clients' rights, to meet with your attorney, to be explained what's going on in your case, to have access to your attorney, because that's ultimately the person you're paying at the end of the claim, right? If you settle your case or you go to trial, it's your attorney who's collecting the fees. So if you haven't done that, and in a lot of cases, we've had people that have come to our office, haven't met with their attorney, it's 3 months in, and they wanted to know if they could terminate their attorney. And I have to tell them, under Florida law, you absolutely can. I can't speak with you about your case until you terminate your lawyer,
Right.
because those are ethical violations, and I don't speak with them until they've told me that, look, I fired my attorney, I have it in writing, I asked for a copy of my file, and I want to hire you. So the only thing with that is that that attorney that you fired after 2, 3, 6 months of representation may have a lien against any recovery you get
Oh,
um, for attorneys' fees. Most often than not, attorneys will take it out of the new attorney will take that lien out of their fee. That's what we do, unless the case has progressed for 2 years and it's in litigation, and that lien is going to be uh, quite large because of the amount of
yes.
time invested in it. And at that point, the client has a decision to make if they're going to pay it out of their pocket or stick with the attorney, or is it that important that they don't care? They want a new attorney because they don't feel they're being properly represented. But in most cases, Steve, we will absorb that cost out of our fee, and the other attorney is only entitled to what's called a quantum meriat lien. And that's Latin and fancy words for they only get paid for the time they put in.
Gotcha.
It's not a percentage anymore. They only get paid for the amount of time that they can document and prove that they vested into your case, not the case manager, because that's a different rate, right? The paralegal or the legal assistant can't bill per hour what an attorney bills per hour. So the legal fees that the attorney is saying they spent on the case has to be what they actually, if they're charging two, three, four, $500 an hour, it has to be work performed by them. Otherwise, the rate has to reflect that an assistant worked on it at uh, $25 an hour, say, or $20 an hour, whatever they pay their assistant.
One of the things well, several things I love about your firm. First of all, you only do personal injury. And what I mean by that is you're going to see a lot of firms out there. They do bankruptcy, they do criminal law. They've got 4 or 5 areas of law. And this is the only thing you and Angela do is personal injury. I did a lot of research because we do that with our experts, and it seems like the bigger firms, Lauren, that people went and signed with, they all use a thing, intake. They went through intake, and that's the only person they spoke to. But either the intake person wasn't knowledgeable, they had to go ask the attorney and get back with them, or they didn't get back with them right
Right,
away.
right.
Your firm, they're either going to talk to you or they're going to talk to Angela.
Correct. We are the intake.
Yes.
We are the intake. We don't have you sit with a paralegal. We don't have you sit with a legal assistant, a case manager, an investigator, or somebody just hired to take initial information. We sit down with the client each and every time personally. We carve out the time to sit with them. We will give them the free consultation with us, not with an assistant. We evaluate the claim. We'll look at what evidence needs to be procured from day one, not that it sits at an assistant's desk and then gets to us 2 weeks later, because by that time, areas could be changed, pictures could be different, witnesses could be gone. So we sit down with you initially from the very beginning. We make sure we, the attorneys, know what's bothering you, what's hurting you, that you're seeing the proper type of doctor, You don't want to go to a podiatrist if you have back pain, right?
Right.
The choice of doctor is yours, but the type of doctor that you treat with, we can certainly help you with. Um, because a lot of people are under the mistaken impression that all attorneys are in bed with all the doctors. And that's not true. It's not true. The client's relationship with the doctor is separate and distinct from the relationship with the attorney. And ultimately, it is the client's decision on who to treat with and where to treat. So you may not have that experience with larger firms. They may say, I got a guy, I'm from
Yes.
New York, so everybody has a guy, right? I got a guy, you go to this doctor, you go to that doctor, just do what they say and we'll get you money. That's not how a claim should be worked. And in my opinion, 30 years of doing this. It takes away from the true credibility of the client, because if ultimately you file a lawsuit, Steve, and they ask you, how did you get to your doctor? Oh, my attorney said she had a guy. Well, that goes over well with the jury. You want to do your research as someone who's been injured. You want to look up the doctors. You want to see the reviews. You want to feel comfortable. You want to make your own decision. That's just the way we handle cases. And I think that's one of the many things that distinguishes us from other firms.
Yes. And I hear now a lot of insurance companies, and it's pretty obvious and probably, I guess, makes sense to the insurance companies, but a lot of them want to pay you immediately following an accident. And I don't understand why people would just settle so fast.
Well, because to a lot of people,
The insurance company wants to.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, because it benefits them. Anytime they
Yes.
offer you money out of the gate, it's to their benefit, not yours. And that's what I
Exactly.
think people have to remember the most about it is that if they're coming to you with money, whether it be $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, or $5,000 in a really catastrophic type of accident, that's only for their benefit to secure a release from you saying, you've been paid this nominal amount up front. You cannot come after us or my insured anymore for any other damages. If you wind up going to a doctor 3 days after you sign the release, or the day after you sign the release, hours after you sign the release, and you need surgery, you need spine surgery, you need a 3-level neck fusion, you need a 2-level back discectomy infusion, you're done. You just settled your case for $1,500, and you're going to be permanently impaired for the rest of your life. So they train their adjusters to do that. Progressive has a little car, the Progressive Mobile that I call it, and they go out to the scene of the accident, and Geico will call you right away to make sure you're okay, and Allstate will call you right away, as will all the other insurance companies. And, hey, we could get this resolved for you. We'll fix your car and we'll give you another $1,500 up front. We could get this done. You don't need to pay an attorney fee. So let me think. $1,500 cash up front, or potentially 50,000, 100,000, 250,000, and I got to pay a third to an attorney.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Right. So, they go to courses to teach them how to befriend people who have been in an accident right out of the gate, what to say, how to say it, make them think, lull you into a sense of security that they're your friends, they're your good neighbor, they have your interest, in hand, when the only thing they have in hand is a minimal payment to you and a
Yes.
release for you to sign really quickly that absolves their insured from any further
They
liability.
don't want you getting an attorney.
No.
All
I
right.
had one woman call me. It was an accident, and it happened out towards Ocala, and it was on a road, a 2-way road. And this woman pulled out from a parking lot of a restaurant right into oncoming traffic and caused a collision with my client. And she tried to deal with the property damage on her own, and she was injured. But right at that point, she was just dealing with the property damage. And I actually have the recorded statement with the adjuster where he very indignantly and very smoothly was telling her that she's 30% at fault for the accident. She had no traffic signals. She had no stop sign. He was riding within the speed limit, and this woman pulls out, and he affords her 30% liability. So she makes her way to me, and I call the adjuster. I sign her up, and from the first phone call, I tell the adjuster, I've heard the video, the audio tape. You said that she was 30% liable, and I want to know in what world she's 30% liable for this accident. Do you have the police report? Yes, I have the police report. Okay, then what I'm going to suggest is that you take this next 24 hours and you look at the police report again, and you listen to the recording again, and you could even speak with your insured again. And I'm going to call you in 24 hours after you've had time to reevaluate this claim now that I'm involved. 24 hours later, they admitted 100% liability.
Wow. Hey, Lauren, I can't believe how fast the show is going.
Wow,
Give everybody your phone number and your website.
Phone number 727-937-3171. Website www.zervosinjurylaw.com.
If you've missed any portion of today's show, we'll be replaying the show in 2 weeks. Lauren, I love doing the show with you and Angela. And thank you so much. We'll see you again.
You soon. Got it. Be safe.
Thanks, Lauren. That's law firm of Colta and Zervos. Amazing personal injury law firm. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.